daily English news program on Azərbaycan Television with the most important events of the day. I'm your host, İlham. According to the press service of the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, on July 12th, President of the Republic of Tajikistan, Imam Rahmon, made a phone call to President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, İlham. The heads of state discussed topical aspects of Tajik-Azerbaijani bilateral relations, particularly economic and trade ties, and emphasized the positive dynamics of development of these relations in recent years. The sides paid special attention to the current military-political situation in Afghanistan. In this regard, informing the President of Azerbaijan in detail of the alarming situation in the provinces of Afghanistan bordering Tajikistan, Imam Rahmon expressed serious concern over the escalation of the situation on the southern borders of the CIS. The President of the Republic of Tajikistan invited President of the Republic of Azerbaijan to pay an official visit to Tajikistan at a time convenient for him. The President of the Republic of Azerbaijan accepted the invitation with gratitude. The date of the visit will be agreed upon through diplomatic channels. President İlham signed an executive order on additional measures to continue the reconstruction work of the highway of Nesimi district of Baku. According to the executive order, 2 million monads were allocated to the Azerbaijan Avtomobil Yolları State Agency towards that end. A year has passed since the Tovuz clashes, which began on July 12th last year and lasted for several days. A year earlier, Armenia suddenly attacking the Azerbaijani positions on the state border in the direction of the Tovuz district committed a provocation. However, it was suppressed thanks to the courage of our heroic soldiers. Exactly a year ago, these places were not as quiet as serene as they are now. These villages, where cheerful people lived, turned into a battlefield. The insidious enemy took out their anger on civilians for the blows from the Azerbaijani army. All of a sudden we heard a noise, quiet sounds at first, but then rumble of heavy artillery, but they didn't shoot in the village. My father got us out of there, but stayed himself. The last time we talked was on the morning of the 14th, approximately 10 to 11 a.m. A shell fell into our yard and father died right there, said Zernishan Gözalova, resident of the Agdam village of Tovuz district. In those difficult days, in the person of the 76-year-old resident of the village of Agdam, Tovuz district, Aziz Aliyev, we saw the resistance of the Azerbaijani people to the enemy, but the target was not only the village of Agdam. The shells fired at the Tovuz villages of Dender, Kuşçu, Elibeyli, Vahidli, Yuxarı, and Aşağı Öysüllü caused serious damage to civil infrastructure. Today all these houses have been rebuilt. The construction of a total of 73 objects, which were then damaged, has been completed. People have returned to their homes. Life goes on as usual. I wasn't at home. I returned and was horrified to see what was happening here. Everything was in terrible state, and now all conditions have been created here. 3 rooms, a kitchen and a bathroom. Thank you for such beauty, said President of Vahidli village of Tovuz district, Süreyya Rüstemova. In July last year, during the fighting, a mortar shell fell here. Everything became unusable. The state restored everything. They provided me with the materials, paid the expenses. Thank you, said the resident of Vahidli village of Tovuz district, Aydın Məmmədov. The purpose of the military provocation committed by the enemy on July 12th last year was the seizure of the strategic heights of Azerbaijan, which divides the state border between Azerbaijan and Armenia. July 12th, 2020, a normal Sunday, we continued to serve in combat positions. The enemy opened fire with small arms. Then they took under fire combat positions from 60, 82, 120 mm mortars, said serviceman Rafael Poladov. We served the enemy with artillery fire, destroyed their posts, and now, as you can see, there are no enemies at the posts, not a single one. We have destroyed them, said Junior Sergeant Rövşən Məmmədov. By order of the commander, we did not allow the enemy to advance along the entire front line, inflicted damage on manpower, equipment and positions, said Junior Sergeant Elgün Abbasov. When repelling the enemy's attack, 12 servicemen of the Azerbaijani army became marchers. Major General Polat Hashimov, Colonel Ilgar Mirzayev, Mayor Anar Novruzov, Major Namik Ahmedov, Warrant Officer Yashar Babayev, Officer Ilgaz Dilnalı, Conscript Private Elchin Mustafazadeh, Soldier Ilshat Məmmədov, Private Nazim Ismailov, Sergeant Vugar Sadıkhov, Senior Lieutenant Rashad Mahmudov, and Private Hayam Dashtamirov. Each of them is an individual for us, the most dear and unforgettable. I am proud of each of them, led by the General. We are glad that we avenged them, said Colonel Lieutenant Agil Jafarov. From 12th to 14th of July, here, Polat Hashimov fought shoulder to shoulder with us. It was pride for us that General Hashimov fought with us in this post, said Lieutenant Akshin Aliyev. Having committed the July provocation, Armenia wanted to conceal the psychological trauma it received in the April 2016 battles. However, instead, they received a new strong psychological blow. On the other hand, a number of provocative statements by the Armenian military political leadership did not remain unanswered before this event. The fatal blows of the Azerbaijani army did not allow their dreams to come true. In this case, their eyes were directed to a single address, the Collective Security Treaty Organization. The appeal to the CSTO is another manifestation of their cowardice. Allegedly, two Azerbaijani servicemen violated the Armenian border in a UAZ vehicle and tried to commit military sabotage. The question is what country's army would organize an attack in a UAZ vehicle using only 2 officers and soldiers? Does the Armenian army prepare such brilliant military operations? But neither the Azerbaijani nor any other army of the world would take such an unwise step, said President İlham Aliyev. Immediately after the incident, the Turkey Council, which unites 120 countries, the Non-Aligned Movement, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and other international structures, making a statement, severely condemned the provocative actions of Armenia. However, the Armenian leadership did not learn any lessons from the July events. The large-scale military operations that began a few months later, on September 27th, became a worthy response as a counteroffensive against the new military provocative actions of the Armenian army. The patriotic war, once again, for the last time, showed the enemy the strength of not only the Azerbaijani army, but also our state and people. Displaying the highest heroism, the Azerbaijani army liberated our lands, which had remained under Armenian occupation for 30 years. Azerbaijan has restored its territorial integrity and, in a broader sense, has achieved historic goals. On July 12th at 11 a.m., working as a driver in Körpü Bina Tekinti LLC, a resident of the Yevlakh region, born in 1987, Eshan Halilov, stepped on a mine in Garakhanbeyli village of Füzuli district during work, Füzuli district prosecutor's office reported. It has been determined that he received different degrees of bodily injuries. Criminal proceedings have been launched under the relevant articles of the Criminal Code of the Republic of Azerbaijan. An intensive investigation is underway. Putting an end to 30 years of occupation, Azerbaijan resolved the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict and on its own implemented the resolutions of the United Nations Security Council. Today there is no administrative unit on the territory of Azerbaijan called Nagorno-Karabakh, and official Baku is fulfilling the post-conflict tasks in the regions liberated from the occupation. However, there are forces willing to leave the Karabakh issue open so that the new negotiations in this direction can be conducted.
A year has passed since the events of June 12, 2020 introduced. The provocation by the Armenian authorities on the state border in July last year was costly. Having launched a counter-offensive operation on September 27th, Azerbaijan ended with a triumphal march, forcing the opposing side to sign an act of surrender on November 10th. Today, reconstruction works is underway in Karabakh, and official Baku is implementing the projects in the village for the post-conflict phase. However, Armenia, having adopted the agreement of November 10th, not as an act of surrender, but as document on the ceasefire, puts forward unfounded claims on the delimitation of borders, the peace agreement and revenge statements, trying to bring the issue of Karabakh status on the agenda. Some of the statements made by the former co-chairs of the OSCE Minsk group on this issue give the enemy an additional carte blanche. Yerevan continues its policy of misinformation in order to take advantage of the mediator's statement on the need to continue negotiations for a complete resolution of the conflict.
So many years, despite resolutions of United Nations Security Council, decisions of OSCE, decisions of other international organizations, and 3 permanent members of UN Security Council could not use their leverage, use their potential to force Armenia to leave. Even from some of the territories, they could not or they did not want. That's an open question. But now it doesn't make any difference. The conflict is resolved. Azerbaijan did it by military political means.
Azerbaijan has created new realities in the region and it will be impossible to change them. As President İlham emphasizes, no one can exert pressure on official Baku to resume negotiations on the Qabarıq issue. Armenia must accept the existing realities and not to create problems towards peaceful agreement. Otherwise, it will be smashed with the iron fist. The activities of the OSCE Minsk group, which has recently asserted a more active role in the processes in the South Caucasus, are of some concern. Apparently, the group, referring the populist statements of the Armenian side, intends to re-engage in regional processes, in other words, to give artificial respiration to the work of the Minsk Group Co-Chairmanship Institute. I think that they need to think something for themselves, to be creative, to be supportive, not to do something which can damage this fragile peace, not to give some unrealistic promises to Armenia, and to try to be neutral, to try to be impartial, and to try to seal this situation. When I talk about future peace agreement with Armenia, if Armenia would consider this option, then there could be a lot of room for international players. There are the issues of demarcation, delimitation, interaction. So we are part of international community, we are part of the OSCE, and the OSCE has a very special role in the region. Therefore, I think that they can be useful, said President İlham. Mediators can come up with creative ideas to bring post-conflict realities to the world's attention in the process of building the region's future architecture. However, if representatives of the diplomatic corps of the co-chair countries, Russia, France and the United States in Baku wait from traveling to the Karabakh zone together with other ambassadors, from getting acquainted on the spot with the consequences of Armenian atrocities of 30 years, then this is understood as non-involvement of the tripartite format and full maintenance of stability and security in the region. It's now incumbent upon the co-chairman at such a sensitive moment to be more careful in their behavior and not to support the enemy's plans for military escalation. Otherwise, this institution will become meaningless and Armenia will face an even worse fate because of its next adventures.
The opening ceremony of the Diplomacy Week on 44 days of the Patriotic War and Azerbaijan's foreign policy after the war, jointly organized by the Azerbaijani Ministry of Foreign Affairs and ADA University, was held on July 12th. The event, attended by representatives of volunteer organizations and movements, will last till July 26. Participants of the Diplomacy Week will meet with representatives of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other government organizations to get extensive information on foreign policy of Azerbaijan during the Patriotic War, as well as about the historic victory of the glorious Azerbaijani army led by the Supreme Commander-in-Chief. The first guest of the Diplomacy Week, aide to the President Hikmet Hacıyev, noted that the event coincides with the date of another provocation committed by the Armenian side on the state border in Tovuz a year ago. Last year, on July 12th, the Tovuz battles took place. Back then, Armenia, continuing its occupation policy and aggression, committed a terroristic act on the border between the two states. This provocation was in line with Armenia's doctrine on the state level, as a continuation became an expression of the new territories, new lands concept. Committing this provocation, alongside capturing new territories, seek one goal: to threaten Azerbaijan's strategic communications. This was their biggest mistake, but they had not taken into account the will of the Azerbaijani people, which was further strengthened by the Tovuz battles, said aide to the President, head of Foreign Policy Affairs Department of the Presidential Administration, Hikmet Hacıyev. Saying that Karabakh conflict is in the past, Hikmet Hacıyev underscored that the demining of the liberated territories, the reconstruction process carried out there, and ensuring the ITP's return to their homes remains as a priority task of Azerbaijan. It was stressed that the foreign policy of Azerbaijan, based on national interests, would continue to be aimed at ensuring peace, security, and international law in the region and in the world. To prevent pressure from outside, the Azerbaijan diaspora should become even more organized, conduct systematic activities, and there are positive trends in this direction. The embassies and consulates of Azerbaijan, as well as the diaspora, in accordance with the tasks set before them by the highly respected president, should carry out fruitful work to bring the realities of Azerbaijan to the international community. And with regret it should be noted that the policy of the Armenian diaspora is negative and threatens stability in the South Caucasus, which we always mention from all international platforms. Interpreting false historical facts, living far from Armenian conditions quite convenient for them, they incited to a new round of revanchism, military actions, and instill in the people of Armenia a feeling of hatred toward neighboring states and peoples, said Hikmet Hacıyev. Hikmet Hacıyev then answered the participants' questions. That was all for today. Thank you for being with us and see you next time.